Hello everybody! Today I like to show you how you will always have a warm tea in your house by showing you how to make this little cozy little bag for you teapot. As you know, it happens to all of us that you made a tea but you forgot to drink it, so it goes cold very quickly. So I show you how to make a nice cozy for it that keeps your tea warm for quite a long time. To measure the height, how high you want your cozy to go, you best try it by just, as every teapot is a different size, holding it loosely here with the centimeter flipped over, holding it very loosely and decide how far you want it to go up. As it's being pulled together, and I really want this so high. So this would be your kind of measurement for yours. First of all, you will have to measure from your teapot the bottom. The base of my teapot is approximately 10 centimeters across. So to cut the base for this teapot, I have to add approximately 2 centimeters or an inch altogether. That means this base I cut 12 centimeters across. I need 3 pieces for the base, 2 the main material ones, and 1 a warm material like a very thick nice wool. I've chosen a Molton 100% cotton material, which really keeps it well. You gotta look around, maybe you got some leftovers from something which you can use. So this Molton piece already goes in the middle between the 2 main material pieces. Then you take one of the pieces from the top and put yourself 2 marks in the half of your round, of your circle. Now you need to add on to this 2 pieces main material, which is in the length exactly 4 times the size of your base across. That means the base there is 10 centimeters of my teapot, so I need in the length here 40 centimeters, 4 times as much as the base from the teapot is. And that will be for half of my circle the material. That means for the other half I will need exactly the same piece. I cut this all in from one and the same material, but you of course, if you like to have in the inside a different material, you can put a seam there, and instead of having 1 big piece you can have 2 small pieces. And to keep this teapot warm, you need the same as on the base, a nice warm, smooth, nice feeling material for the inside. That will be cut in the width the same, but not so in the height, because on the bottom, where my little circle will go on, I will leave 1 centimeter off, otherwise it gets too thick when I join all this. And the same on the top. In this nice raffled up piece, I do not want this thick material. That wouldn't be correct, that wouldn't be nice. Besides that, you need a sideways cut stripe of material, which is stretchable, and you can iron already one of the sides over. Last but not least, you need a nice ribbon to go through the top to pull it together. First you take your 3 base parts, put them together and just stitch around it once with a big stitch, just about 4 or 5 millimeters from the edge, because we don't want this seam later on to show out when we do the next job. Then you take your first half and take your Molton or your wool piece, whatever you want to put inside, put it on the inside from the material and have approximately 1 centimeter standing over on the bottom. And on the top, where I got those little cuts, you will also be underneath that little cut right there. So just go along and stitch this on by just holding it down for your next job. Do the same on this side. Now, as you know, I've ironed this in half already. But as I mentioned before, if you like to have on each side different materials, you just put a seam here and cut 2 pieces instead of one big one. I take my ironed edge here, fold it briefly over. Now I put it exactly, and here's my 3 centimeter cut for where my ribbon's supposed to go in this 1.5 centimeter. That means I'm going to do a 1 centimeter seam, but I'm only going to my first mark there. I leave this open and start on the next mark stitching this all the way down 1 centimeter. I do exactly the same on this side, starting with my centimeter, looking right away for my top, which I always like to look, where do I have to go to? Is this all even? And here I will stop on my first cut, on my first mark, and I start on the other one because that is my nice top, my 3 centimeter. Then you turn this one inside out. Do the corner nice. Same on this side. Decide which material you want on the top if you got different ones, different colors. And start here on the bottom to stitch this one down 1 millimeter. You can also just iron it if you want to, that would be fine. Now consider you left a hole here for your ribbon to go in. So I only go to there where my hole is started, which is just above the molten, the warm lining I got in there. Now I will take my guide, which I will put on 4.5 centimeters, which I considered to be exactly my first stitch through line that I will do here on 4.5. And I just go along here, and now I automatically, when I get there, go down that edge again, and that's all finished. And while I'm here with the sewing machine, I just close this button up. That's coming no time. Now I set my little guide on 3 centimeters, because then I have my opening for my ribbon. There you go. If you've done it correctly, you got your opening there, and you got the other opening there, or the coming out. Now you do exactly the same with the other piece that you got prepared. Now I have to start with putting the raffle in the bottom in. That's the side where we haven't done any stitching to finish the part off. And with my biggest stitch that I have on my sewing machine, I go along the bottom, pull the thread out at the end, and pull the top thread, which is my thicker thread, and evenly pull the material into approximately the size I believe I need. After I've done a little bit, I will take my base, which I marked in half, as you remember, and I just briefly go around it, holding it to check
if this is the correct length that I need. By the look, I need to slightly even it out and maybe pull a 0.5 centimeter out, as I maybe pulled in a little bit too much. Or if you haven't pulled in enough, then just pull a little bit more. And check it again before you start sewing. Look for your cut and hold it centimeter by centimeter slowly onto the roundabout that you have there, and check that it fits. And that looks good. That's why I'm going to start now. In case if you have two different materials, then choose the side that you want it to be in the inside or on the outside. And then with a small centimeter, start putting this big piece onto your little base for your teapot. This is a job you cannot do very fast, because you got to look for so many different things and slowly go around it. The base has got to be on the bottom, and you got to have your big piece on the top to be able to do this job correctly. And keep on pulling the threads out if the material seems to give away here all over the place, so you don't stitch it into the seam. Otherwise you got so much cleaning up to do later, which isn't nice. But as I said, this is not a job you can just push your foot down and stitch over it. You got to take your time. And just before you get to your next mark, look again and maybe pull it a little bit more in or pull the material out, so you really end up right there at that particular point. Maybe I should have done on my overlock the edge first, but I didn't know it's gonna come out like that so quickly while I'm stitching. Oh, that's all right as well. So you can see already here now that my first half is more or less finished. That means I have to do exactly the same with the other side now. I start again with a very big stitch. I fasten the stitches in the beginning, but here at the end I pull it out to be able to pull the thread now. And the other end is held, as I said, as I'm only doing it from one side. If this piece would be much longer than what you see here, then I would also leave in the beginning the thread hanging and rather pull it from each side. But like that, it's always so easy because it's held already on one side. And now, before I start sewing again, I will check it if I'm approximately correctly in my lengths. Nope, it's still a little bit too long. That means I'm going to pull it all the way along in a little bit more closer and tighter to make it shorter. And again, I check it once before I decide to start sewing with a sewing machine. That looks very good. So there is the end of my first part. So I put this one directly onto it and start exactly more or less where I finished before. Again here, try to work tidy, pull all the threads that are hanging around to one side, don't stitch over them, then it's always difficult to get rid of them. And take your time, really go slowly, bit by bit, and finish the round, your circle, your base. And before you get to the end, check again to make sure if you're not too short or too long, then either pull some out or pull some in again until you see that's where you are. Put that one over, and then they join exactly onto each other, the same as when you started the second part. And also here, clean it off tidy, and it looks good already then, and then you can enjoy your job. There you go, look at that, how nicely that looks already. And now comes a little bit more difficult part, if we can talk about a difficult part, because we have to take our long stripe now, which, as I said before, I ironed it over already on one side, but we are going to stitch on the side that is not ironed over, And you can decide on your own which side you prefer to stitch it onto. It can be done from each side, so that is your decision. And I just considered, I think I will start on this particular side, and therefore I have to slightly turn this over first. To do this, I do a straight cut down first, and I start wherever. It doesn't matter where you start on this roundabout there. Just start anywhere, but put this stripe in the beginning a centimeter turned over. And now, also again, as before on the last job, you cannot do this very fast. You have to take your time. I'm doing about a 8mm seam here. I'm not making a full centimeter seam, as that gets too bulky and too big. And I really do centimeter by centimeter, as you can see, because on one hand you have your circle piece on the bottom now, but you have all this width of the top material there, which again and again you have to pull in position to make sure you're not stitching something funny in a wrong position, as you want it to be nice at the end. So there is no other way besides taking your time. And with this thick material in the inside, it also starts getting a little bit stiff. That's why it's just a pulling and a pushing, and just keep on going. But you will see, suddenly you're at the end. It's not a long stretch, so it's just a bit of patience we both need. You watching it and me doing it and trying to explain it in the very best to you. By the way, sometimes my English isn't the very best. It's not supposed to be an apology, but I hope you can deal with it. Let's put it that way. I'm trying to do my best, but it is not my first language, so yeah, sometimes I fall over my own tongue or over a word. I got no idea what I'm doing then. Okay, here we almost get to the end. That's getting thicker and thicker as we get another layer of material to go over it now. And now I'm just stitching another centimeter approximately over the piece where I started with. Say, now I'm lying it flat. I go a little bit over, like I said, approximately a centimeter, so they're good overlapping. And now I cut the leftover piece just off. And now it's getting thicker and thicker. You can see that. There's my iron edge. And what you can also see right now is, because we turned the first piece when we started over, when we now fold this all over, this edge is already clean and tidy, and we don't need to do anything else in that position there. That is very, very handy. And now it's getting more difficult because we have to really pull this tight over and around. I cut my stripe on 3.5 centimeter. Maybe for you it's better if you cut it 4 centimeter wide. Then you have more room to turn this over. It will be slightly easier than the one I did here, but that's my own fault. That's why I got to struggle a little bit and really keep on turning it over. And if you find that with your machine you cannot handle doing this particular job now, folding it over, then it's no problem if you just take your time, put loads of little pins all the way around it, and then stitch it on by hand. This is absolutely all right to do as well, because if you only have a household machine, it's also possible that your pressure foot will not hold it down so well. I found this, I've seen sewing machines where I thought, oh God, who's supposed to be working with this thing? There are very good ones meanwhile, but I know a long time ago they were a disaster. If you have an old one, also there, I remember my mother-in-law, she had this old one. It stitched fantastic. It was really, really a good machine. It was very, very expensive in those days when she bought it. But it was solidly made. But some of these other ones made totally of plastic, and then you're expecting this machine to do a good job with you and for you. Honestly, I think it's not easy. That's why I love my Pfaff machine. It's very, very strong. It's very robust. I can do so many different jobs with it, sewing-wise. Of course, I can't do a buttonhole with it or any other particular jobs. I can't do a zigzag machine with it. No, this machine does a straight seam, back and forwards if you wish, a tiny little stitch, a big stitch, but that is it. Okay, well, I've been chatting to you about anything. You see, I'm almost at the end, and I'm quite happy about it as well, because this wasn't the easiest job to get around this, because it was quite stiff. But you see, it turned out all right. It looks good. There's one or two little threads which I have to clean off. And that's, now you're looking in the inside where the teapot will be standing. So there's my little holes that I left for my nice ribbon. And I pull the first side through. Yep. Same on the other side. This is a handy little tool. If you don't have a long stick like this, have one made. It's just a thin piece of wire, iron, metal, and at the end soldered on a little loop. And of course you can't use it for little things that you have, because it doesn't go around curves or anything like that. But if you have a long stretch to pull a ribbon or a cordle in, these are fantastic. If it's terrible if you have a little, just a safety pin and you got to go a long way along. So I keep on chatting instead of telling you what's happening here, because I'm taking my teapot, putting it down in the middle, put it over the front, and now I pull all my ribbon together into the position. I'm looking forward to the tea already that we're going to have. Try to even it out nicely. I won't spend too much time on this, as I don't want this video now to get another hour long, as some of my other ones. Haven't it evened out so well yet, but you see what I mean. It's definitely going over the front, over the nozzle. And now I have to cut this approximately in lengths. Can still do it later exactly. Oh, we're doing a little loop here, a nut and a loop. And I'm more or less finished. Put the kettle on. I need some hot water. I need a tea bag or fresh tea. An Earl Grey. Oh, what can you offer? And here we go. John, keep the camera in position, otherwise you won't get your tea. I wish you so much fun, and I hope you will soon make yourself a little cozy as a present for Christmas. Christmas isn't so far away, you know. Or for some friends, or for yourself. Have fun and enjoy every bit of it.